My name is Bear Siragusa, and this is the Hunting Hound podcast presented by W Hunting Supply.
All right, then we're recording. Yeah, so Steve wrote the article in Bear Hunting Magazine about your dog, Rooster Cogburn.
Yes.
That was a legendary dog, as I understand it.
I guess. I mean, I don't really brag my dogs or anything like that, but he was good, and he produced some really nice pups that I'm still running to this day. And so are a lot of other people around the country, Maine, Wisconsin, Utah, stuff like that, for mountain lions.
Sure. Oh, wow. Really cool.
But yeah, she was a good dog, and I mean, it's a really good dog. But if, you know, his father was a good dog. Father before, his grandfather was a good dog. But he was sort of special. I mean, I turned down a lot of money for him a couple times, a lot.
Oh,
and
cool.
I just don't think I could replace. Money would have been nice, but I couldn't replace him.
Right. Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about him and about he was for. I guess I'll introduce you real quick. You don't need much of an introduction, but talking with Matt Mcdonnell here, the Mcdonnell Redbone Kennels, and you've got a super solid line of red bones that are geared towards big game.
Yeah, I actually started coon hunting, well, I don't know, some 40 some odd years ago, and prices fell out of it, and coyotes moved into the area, and so I started running coyotes. I really liked the longer chase and everything like that, and I bred my dogs over the years for track driving. I mean, I really wanted to push the track hard, and then we actually had bears started to get populated around New York again, and switched over to that, and
right,
that's basically all I do now.
Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in Rochester, New York, right by Lake Ontario.
Okay,
center of New York State.
Sure. Yeah, that's beautiful country.
But my camp is up on Tug Hill, New York, up towards the Adirondacks, where I do all my bear chasing.
Okay,
so
got you.
We get a lot of snow there, a lot of snow. So
I'll bet. Yeah, there used to be a dog sled race up in that area. I'm trying to remember what it was called. This was 25 years ago, maybe.
Probably it was one. I think it was probably ran in Winona State Forest.
That sounds like it could be. Yep. And yeah, you guys got just a bunch of snow. Holy moly.
Yeah, Winona. My house and camp butts up to Winona State Forest.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we get big, 20 feet, 25 feet a year.
Oh wow.
So and it's not uncommon to have 8-foot drop in one day.
Wow.
So
that's insane. So
yeah, but
how did you get into the hounds? Was this a family thing that you'd been doing for a while? That your family's been doing for a while? What got you into it?
I started trapping when I was a kid, and then to be honest, I saw the movie The Red Fern Grows.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
I said that looks like fun, and I got myself a dog. I got a red bone, and I had it for like 6 months. She got ran over by a car.
Ugh.
I got a blue tick. Same thing happened. Got ran over by a car and got myself another red bone. And I've had basically the same line ever since, but I've owned walkers and plots, blue ticks, but I prefer my red bones over any other breed I've ever owned.
Sure. What is it about the red bones that you like so much?
Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
They are just very smart. They're, people friendly. I never have a problem with other dogs with them. And I do with other breeds.
Sure.
They seem to work for me. They do what I want them to do, and they catch the game that I put them on. So I can't complain. And right. I like their looks. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, they're gorgeous dogs. I mean, a red bone is a hard dog to beat in terms of just pure aesthetic, looks. Yeah.
I mean, I prefer a blockhead dog. I mean,
mm-hmm.
But it's, instead of, I call them pinhead dogs, the ones that got the thin, longer head. I prefer a blocky, stocky dog.
Sure. Most
people call my dogs pit bulls when they look at them because they're built. I mean, they're built different.
Yeah.
But like I said, they seem to work, and people seem to like them. Everyone usually has one, wants another.
Sure.
But so I only breed when I need a puppy, though. That's the thing. I don't breed to sell dogs. Never have. I've never bought a started dog, sold a started dog, or bought a finished dog or sold a finished dog. Always from pups.
That's really interesting. How, what does your kennel go back to that, I guess, second red bone, the one that you had after the blue tick?
Yes.
Okay.
Mountain View breeding.
Okay.
And that goes back to like a Brunswick little man, heavy, and some hazes and stuff like that way back, a long, long time ago. I mean,
Sure.
40 years. And I just been working it ever since and trying to make it better. You always got to, if you're going to breed, you always got to try to improve the traits.
Right. I was going to ask you about that because, sometimes I talk to these guys and they just kind of stumble upon a line that they really, really like and they just maintain it for, a lot of years. But I mean, your line seems so solid. I'm really interested to hear how you continue to build on that original genetics. You obviously saw something you liked, but then how did you go about putting together a line like you've got today? I mean, it's like whenever anybody breeds, I think their goal is ultimately to try and do what you've managed to do. And I'm just sort of fascinated to hear your process.
Well, takes a lot of time and work to find the right dogs. I mean, I've always had males here. I keep males because I hate losing dogs during the heat process for a couple of weeks during season.
Sure.
But I always, I've gone through a lot of females that just don't make the grade for what I consider a dog. And I'll, even if she's a good dog and she'll tree bear, if she doesn't live up to my standards, then I'll give her to someone else and they're happy this could be to have her. Right. But I mean, I've gone through females, the three most try, and just you find the one and then you breed to that if it's got the traits you're looking for. And it's always a crapshoot. You just never know. You can take two of the worst dogs and get great pups out of it, or take two of the best dogs in the country and they get, nothing.
Oh gosh. Tell me
you
about it. You
gotta try. And so but I've been lucky. I mean, I have other friends that have been breeding for years and they say, hey, I'm not trying to brag or anything like that. They say it's amazing that I just keep getting them, and I'm lucky, I guess. I got a good foundation and to work with, and and every once in a while you grab that right female and it just works for you.
Right.
But you also have to, you got to work a dog right and train them right, and it's a key to it.
Right.
Yes.
Sure. I mean, how do you pick a female that you're going to breed? Is it a female that can do all of the things that you want, or do you kind of have to make a little bit of sacrifices in terms of how do you pick that female that you're going to breed?
Well, you gotta like I said, it is a crapshoot, but you see what traits they have and see how they match up the traits that your stud dog has, and hopefully you can, by breeding them, take their faults out. You're trying to get their faults out, and of their line, and make the positives come out stronger.
Sure.
And you're just, like I said, it's a crapshoot, but you got to try and sometimes you get lucky. I got a female out of North Carolina, and one time I got her as a puppy because I needed a female, and I knew she came from bear stock, and she turned out to be a really good dog. I mean, but the only thing I didn't like about her, she was too gritty. And I don't like a really gritty hound. I do not. I will take brains over grit every single day of the week.
Yep.
Because dogs with brains usually don't get tore up and killed.
Right.
Or they're not in the vet all the time. And with bears, I mean, bear can do a lot of damage to a dog.
Oh, sure.
And she was really gritty. I mean, if she could get her mouth on something, she was going to put her mouth on it.
Okay.
And she, she had a fetish for porcupines in her younger years too. And there's nothing worse than a dog that chews on porcupines.
That is such a pain in the butt, man. Yeah. No, I can understand that. I can understand that. But I mean,
it was real bad.
At the same time, though, I mean, I was looking at your Facebook here, 6 months ago maybe, and saw a post about, I'm trying to remember who that was, Chisholm maybe, who would run a coyote for 24 miles.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes,
that's
we've
amazing.
had races go 30 miles. We've had races go 35 miles in a day.
Right. That doesn't sound like a
That's
dog that's lacking grit to me. That's amazing.
Well, he's got stamina and he's got a lot of drive,
Sure.
but he's not a dog that'll go in. He'll stay face to face with the bear, but he's not going to go in and bite the bear, which
Right.
is what I don't want a dog doing,
Right.
because they usually don't win that fight.
Right. Right. I mean, that makes total sense. It's and it's something that excuse me. It's something that a lot of dogs that have been imported here for hunting some of those big brown bears, a lot of them have kind of gotten a little bit of a wake-up call as soon as they've arrived here, in the sense that, most of the black bears that they would have seen, they've seen some real tough ones. There certainly are plenty of them out there, but most of them will tree.
Yes.
And most of the time, these dogs have a few other dogs running with them. But then they come here and they've got a bear that won't tree ever, and they're running it by themselves or with one other dog.
Right.
And, there's been a bunch of dogs that have been imported over here that have had, spectacular and short careers here.
And I would imagine a bunch of them are plots.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course.
Yes. Plots are a really gritty dog.
They are so gritty. I had a plot, and he was, or he is. He's made it through his first few bear runs. So far, he's still a youngster, but he 5 months old, got kicked in the face by a moose, and still wouldn't stop. Was still on it. I had to sort of drag him off this moose after being kicked in the face.
Yeah, and moose can throw one hell of a kick. I've seen dogs get underneath them, and you think they're gonna be stomped to death, and somehow they come out of it. And I don't know how.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I've had I've seen moose in dog teams like the Huskies and things like that, and they can do so much damage so fast. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, when I lived out in the mountains out in Utah, because I went out there to run mountain lions back in the 90s, and I lived up top. I mean, I was at like 7,000 feet elevation. We had moose all over the place, and they would chase. And I lived on a golf course that Jack Nicklaus had designed, and that moose would get out there during the rut, and they would chase golfers around in the golf carts and stuff. Mooses in a rut, they're just a mean. They can be a real mean animal.
They can be really mean. Yeah, I totally agree.
And I could just look out my window and watch guys trying to run the golf carts as they go, and moose chasing them, and the moose runs across the green and just destroys it. And it was entertaining.
Oh man, that's too funny. That's too funny. So when did you get your first hound? Like when? Give me kind of an idea of time frame.
I think it was 78.
Okay.
1978. So a while back.
Yep. Sure.
And I've had him ever since. I've never been married, no kids. I just live to run dogs. That's just my passion. And then I don't do as much coyote hunting anymore, because I sort of got back in the snowmobiling again, and because I quit that for a while. I lost a few friends, and so I'm not really running as much coyote. And I do like running coyote because I love those long races. And I am a person that prefers. A lot of people like to run snow. I like running dry ground.
Yep.
With no snow.
I'm the same. Yep.
If it's 5 degrees out and the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour, ground is rock hard frozen, and if you can get a dog that can push a track and run a coyote for 6-7 hours straight, then they're doing something.
Oh man, you've got something. You're doing something right. Yep. I totally agree.
So I really enjoy dry ground running. I mean, I do run on snow too, but I mean, because most of the time we always got snow.
Right. But
when we don't, I really enjoy the dry ground running.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. It's our season for the foxes, because that's how I got my start with these hounds is doing fox hunting here.
Right.
It's the most popular area. I mean, it's the longest season. The season goes from mid-August until beginning of April, and there's a lot of them around. It's an easily accessible way to get a lot of time out there with your hounds. which appealed to me, but I was really surprised how many, and there's a bunch of people who will start in August, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them will wait for that first snow.
There's a lot of people around in the United States that won't run coyotes or fox till there's snow on the ground.
Yeah, that's odd to me. Like, it seems like you're losing out on such a great time of year to be out there. It's so pleasant to be out there.
I mean, I used to love running fox, but now I break all my dogs off fox, and just for coyotes. Only reason was fox used to, be a nice tight race. Gray fox, especially red fox. Now all they do is straight line and go into a hole somewhere.
Yep, that's exactly what happens here.
And then you got to go get your dogs a mile out in the woods or something. And they're trying to dig the fox out of the hole, and you're just wasting time. So coyotes don't do that. Coyotes will bay up.
Sure.
But, it's above ground. And it's just got to the point, I think a lot of it had to do with the coyotes chasing the fox all the time, trying to kill them too.
Yep.
That's why they straight line and then hole up. And it's back in the day when we didn't have the coyote population that we do now because we're overrun with coyotes. It was a lot of fun chasing fox. I mean, it was a blast.
Yep.
But
no, that makes
sense.
Yeah, I got to the point where I realized that I needed to either decide that I was just going to be happy with the chase, which is ultimately what I decided to do, or I was going to need to get a terrier, like one of these earth dogs,
right,
and start digging these foxes up because they're beelining it to the nearest den and going underground, and that's it for me. Unless I want to get a terrier, and I'm not in this to be digging holes.
No, not at all. But I mean, you want. I mean, to me, it's always the race.
Mm-hmm. Totally
it's
agree.
It's not about a kill or anything like that. I mean, like even during late season when we are running coyotes, say the last month and a half of the season, we won't even kill them. We don't, because they're loaded with pups. And a lot of people want them all dead because they say they're killing all the deer and all that. But I just, enjoy watching the hounds, so we just don't shoot them or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean that I can totally respect that. I am the exact same way. I'll let them run. If they pass me a few times during a fox race, I'm tickled pink. I am super happy with that. I'll take foxes that I can see are ill. We've got a little bit of an issue with mange over here.
Yeah, so do we.
Which, and the nice thing about mange, if you can say anything nice about mange, is that the first thing it's going to hit is their tail. So if you got a fox running by with a real scraggly looking tail, that's a sick fox.
Yep.
And I'll take that one in a heartbeat.
We're having mange is hitting the bear population over here now too.
Really?
Hard.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. And boy, you want to talk about an ugly creature? A bear with no hair is an ugly creature.
That's something out of nightmares.
Yeah. So, I mean, New York's starting to get quite a bit of it down towards Pennsylvania, where Pennsylvania's got it pretty bad. What else? Who else? Oh, West Virginia's got some showing up.
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
I can still hear you.
All right. Well, my phone, people are calling me.
Oh.
So I just had to hang up. But I don't trust my phone.
No problem. So, no, I can hear you great now. It got a little bit quiet there for a second, but we're good now.
There was actually another Redbone guy from New York giving me a call. I have no idea what for, but I'll talk to him later.
Yeah, it's always fun talking dogs.
Yeah, so, it is.
Is there a big community, you guys? Like I see, most of the time when I'm looking at big game dogs and YouTube videos or on social media or whatever, most of the guys I talk to, then we're talking plots or blue ticks, sometimes some treeing walkers, things like that, but there's at least in terms of like a social media presence, it doesn't seem to be a lot of you Redbone guys. You working?
There's a lot of people that are they own Redbones and they all do is shows because, which I personally don't like. If you're going to show a dog, it better hunt too.
Oh, 100%.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, they're not house pets. And, the dog can live in the house with you and still be a good hunting dog, but you need to hunt it. I'm not a person that really promotes this show stuff. You're not going to hunt a dog. It's not what they're bred for.
Yep.
There's quite a few red bones. I mean, there's a lot of red bones in the country now, but I'd say that I would recommend for big game probably 6 or 8,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it. The coon dog line has been bred for such a hot nose now.
Yep.
For competition, they want to get fresh track and get treed, and so they can score points and win. Try to title their dog.
Yep.
There's not a lot of guys stick with red bones for bear hunting. There's a few. I mean, there's John Gagney in Canada. He's got a very good line. Josh Haynes out in Montana. He's got a good line for cats, and he's running bear too. There's a few, and a couple boys down south like Nick Redmond and Donnie Stockton. But there's a lot of coon hunters out there too that have red dogs, which are good coon dogs. They just don't make it most of the time as bear dogs. It's
right.
Few and far.
Right. I mean, they're being bred for 2 totally different things, and basically 2 totally different sets of skills.
Yes.
Both learned skills and genetics. Skills that was sort of come from the genetics. You've got to have at least. Speaking for myself, I have a hound here she's a running walker, incredibly hot nosed.
Yes.
And, she's got some good qualities, but there's a lot about that dog that I just don't like, it boils down to the nose, it boils down to, I would much rather, that plot I had, he had a cold nose. He could pick up a 12-hour track, from when he was 1, 11 months old, 1. He could pick out and just sort of grind through a 12-hour track.
Right.
Until he got something moving. And I mean, that's not particularly cold-nosed, even. But it was, that was a quality that I liked. I liked being able to go out. I didn't need to be 10 minutes behind whatever I was going to chase.
No, it's a pleasure watching a dog pick an old track and get it going.
It's so fun. So much fun.
But conditions also have to be right too. I mean,
sure.
Like right now, my dog. I have no problem using 12-hour tracks, so I'll take them out. But lately, we're like in a drought here, and the dog's actually struggling right now to jump 5-hour old tracks, and it's just something you just don't see. You don't like, oh, it's only 5-6 hours old. They'll scream it out of there, and they can't smell a thing.
Right.
But
is it just the heat and the dryness?
Yeah,
that's killing you. Yeah.
So I mean, but we had a little, just like a thunderstorm, just real brief the other day, and it made a world of difference yesterday and today. I mean, taking all back and getting jumped, and it just really, you could just see the difference from that little brief shower, how much the dogs could take tracks better. And,
because you had one up in the air yesterday.
Yeah, and I had one up in the air this morning too. Big one this morning. But pictures, and then it was still sort of dark in the woods because it was actually cloud cover, and pictures and video didn't come out as clear. Actually, it came out pretty crappy. So, but it was a quick one, and it got warm. It's 90 here today, and
sure.
So I just pulled the dogs, and I was up at camp, and it's a 2.5-hour ride from my camp to here, and I was gonna immediately get on the phone with you at noon.
Yeah,
and because I actually read your text wrong yesterday, and I'm sitting there waiting for you to call, waiting. And I was watching them mixed martial art fights, and they were over in England, so they're on the air early.
Yeah.
Because I watch mixed martial arts every Saturday, and
gosh,
I'm like, it's
so
like quarter after one, and you haven't called, and I'm like, then I looked at your message again, and I'm like, oh, it's tomorrow, okay.
Oh no, bummer. Oh, that's terrible.
All right. I was just saying, I was watching the fights anyway, so it didn't make a difference to me.
Oh, bummer. What did you think of those fights? That was where that. I was there was a couple of them that didn't go the way I wanted them to.
Yeah, Gutherson got pounded out quick.
That was heartbreaking. That guy was, when I first started, because I covered, I worked a little bit as an MMA journalist years and years ago, and when I started, he had just broken onto the scene, kind of with that first fight with John Jones,
right?
And I mean,
great fight.
Oh my gosh, one of the best fights of all time. And, arguably, I still believe that Gustafsson won that fight.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, yeah, I mean it's tough to take it from a champ if you don't
Oh,
really.
it is. That's the
It was a
thing
great
is,
fight.
if you want to take it from a champ, you got to finish the champ. Is bottom line. Like we've seen that so many times.
See, now John Jones is from Rochester, where I live.
Yep.
Yep, and so is his brother. It plays for, professional football, one of the best defensive ends in the league, and
Sure.
another brother. But yeah, I mean, there's been some really good fights lately too.
Oh man,
really good fights.
Really good fights. The quality, it used to be that you'd look at each division and there'd be 3, maybe 4 guys that you could like imagine maybe could win the title. Like the champion, and then a couple of guys coming up where you could be like, yeah, it could happen. At this point, it's just like most of the divisions are so deep at this point. It's like any of the top 10 guys or girls, gals could just, take a clean sweep of the entire top 10 at any given time. It's really an amazing time to be an MMA fan.
I like the girl fights. They're usually better than the guy fights.
I mean, Molly McCann with that stone cold elbow knockout last night. Holy cow.
So yeah, even though, I mean, you're well, if you followed, you remember Matt Hamill, the deaf guy?
Oh, sure. Yep.
All right. Well, he went from Rochester. He went to Rochester, University of Rochester, which is a big deaf school, and he always trained here and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my nephew, that's deceased now, he was in the movie with him. He was his opponent.
Okay.
So.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So I'm still waiting for John Jones to make his heavyweight debut.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. I was, I thought that Gus was going to sort of clean up at heavyweight just because he's such a big framed guy.
Yeah, he didn't do well.
And yeah, he got kind of he got caught a little bit. I think he's absorbed a lot of punishment over the years.
Yep.
And it's those guys have expiration dates. Whether they want to or not, it doesn't come down to skill. He's just as skilled a fighter as he used to be. It's just, you scramble your egg enough times, and pretty soon it can't take much more.
Yeah, I mean, look, perfect example. Look at Muhammad Ali.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at really. Take your pick. Look at Muhammad Ali. Look at Dan Henderson. Look at Cowboy Cerrone, who just retired.
Yep.
And
that last shot that, when Henderson threw that extra shot on Michael Bisping, that was brutal.
I covered that event. That was brutal.
He was getting that last shot. He was like, I'm in.
That first shot was for the win. That last shot, that was for Henderson.
Yeah, that was for you running your mouth, Michael Bisping.
Yeah,
there you go.
So that was too funny.
That was a good one.
Yeah, but I love. I'm actually going to try and get talk to Gus here in not too long, because he's most people don't know this. He's a houndsman.
Is he?
He is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he runs plots on bear over here.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, really. I didn't.
What makes me like him better.
I know. Me too. I was like, all right, I can definitely cheer for this guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does now. He's got certainly at a crossroads in his career, but he's also a guy with so much. He's super well spoken. Solid dude. So he's got. I think he's one of those guys that can go out. Do whatever he wants to do. If he wants to be in a movie, he can be in a movie. If he wants to start his own TV show, he can do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was a perfect game plan to put against him yesterday anyways. I mean, go right at him. Oh, yeah. That was a smart game plan. There's just no getting around it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the only way you're going to catch a guy like Gustafsson is you're just going to catch him. It's going to be that sort of wild windmill thing where you just manage to clip him.
Yep,
because if you
just don't give him any space.
Right. Yeah.
He's going to pick you apart.
Yeah. You let him find his range, and that's the end.
Yep.
That's the end. But yeah, no, it's, I guess we should keep talking about hounds, because I don't think a lot of people listen to me to tune in for my MMA insights, but it's, oh, I love it. It's an amazing sport. And these guys and girls, they're just unbelievable. They're just unbelievable athletes. But speaking of unbelievable athletes, I want to talk to you about you have a litter that's just been unbelievable. Like you have, I mean, I'm sure you've had several, but like, I feel like I see Lobo, Chisholm, and Odo.
Otto is actually a litter mate to Lobo and Chisholm. Now, Lobo and Chisholm are same cross, just 2 years different.
Okay.
Lobo is same cross, 2 years older than Chisholm, and Otto is out of Chisholm. And then we have another dog, Judge, which is he's a really good bear dog. But Jeff, my friend, got divorced, and he doesn't have as much time to hunt anymore. And because he's got 3 daughters, and they're all on travel league soccer, so
Sure.
But Judge is a phenomenal dog. And then Bill does a rescue in Maine with Hollaback Guide Service.
Mm-hmm.
He's got one of the females, and I'd love to have her back. She is a bear machine, but he'll never sell her ever.
Gotcha.
And then another gentleman, Bill Gillespie in Maine, which is a Bobcat guide. He's got one, and she's phenomenal too. It's a Bobcat dog, and he won't get rid of her either.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a good cross between my rooster dog, and my test dog that I got from North Carolina, from Donnie Stockton, which has a good line of bear dogs. And,
okay, was she the real gritty one that you were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
She actually ran over by a car guy. She had a litter, her last litter, and it wasn't a planned breeding. Lobo got in the pen with her, and it was mother and son, and didn't turn out very well. But I gave her to my buddy, that hunts with me, Mike. He had Rooster's brother, and with all the guys at home with me, all the dogs come from my kennels.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Let me take her to my house and dry her up," because she was going on 4 weeks, and season was coming up. I wanted to get her back in the woods, and somehow she got out of his kennel the first night and got ran over.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
But, yeah, it does happen. And I mean, because I would have loved to make that cross again, because it would just turned out to be a phenomenal cross. Just one of those that I got lucky with. I knew she was a good dog, because first time I ever took her out on bear, put the dogs out, and they all went out, and they only went about half a mile and got treed, and I could hear her still barking and going. I'm like, that stupid dog. What is she doing? Why did she lock up with her other dogs? Right. And she went about another 700 yards, and all of a sudden I hear her blow up treed. And I told the other guys, I'm going to go see what the hell she's doing. It was her first time out. She was like 9 months old, and she had a bear treed by herself.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's a good start. I like this.
This is not bad. That's awesome. Wow. That's
And the next time I took her out, she split on her own bear again. And had another bear treed. So I'm like, well, she's going to work out fine for me. Well, like I said, she was too gritty for my liking.
Right.
I mean, I had to carry out of the woods one time in Maine because a bear hit her spine so hard, stomped her, and the contusion didn't break her spine. It was just contusion. It swelled so much that she couldn't walk.
Sure.
And so we lost the use of her legs. Had to take her in and have surgery done on her. And,
oh wow.
But yeah. So I prefer not, like I said before, not to have one that gritty.
Sure. No, I mean that I can relate to that. Yeah, I would much rather have a smart dog. One of the really interesting sort of aha moments for me in this sport was I've been out with some gritty dogs. I have had that plot that I had was just unbelievably gritty, too gritty. And then right after I sent him down to my friend's place who has plots, and he's doing great down there now. But I went to another friend, Eric Partolo, over in Sweden. And Eric has, a bunch of years ago, a bunch of the dogs in his area were getting eaten by wolves.
Oh.
And it was
nasty.
Oh, that was a bummer. That was a bummer, and they're bad over there. And the dogs were just getting picked off. The wolves were like targeting hunting dogs at that point.
Yeah, they're doing it here too.
Yeah, I talked to a couple guys over there. Up in the UP of Michigan. It's bad. It's bad everywhere right now, I think, or not everywhere, but it's bad everywhere in the sort of the northern states.
Yeah. See, I get invited up there all the time, and I'm like, I'm not coming up there.
Right.
Because if my dog got eaten by a wolf, I'd move there, and I would make it my mission of life to kill every single wolf I could ever find.
Right. Exactly. What Eric did, which everybody, people thought he was insane, and some people still do. I am so impressed with his dogs. This is several generations farther down the road now, but what he did was he took one of the local breeds and he bred that to a Doberman that he had trained to hunt fox. So he had this female that did everything he wanted it to do, functioned how he wanted it to function, and he bred his dogs to this female and produced these super big, super intelligent hounds. And it made it so that he was able to get back out there, because the wolves would, after one round with his hounds, were like, we're not going to do this again.
Now, how big are the wolves over in your area?
Oh, they're big. You know, they're probably not the size of like a Canadian gray wolf, you know, right. But they're, you know, you're going to get most of them are well over 100 pounds. You know, they're solid. They're pretty solid.
Right.
You know, but his dogs are also, 90 pounds a piece as well.
Yeah, that's how Rooster's father was a big dog. He was in running shape. He was 95 pounds when he was in running shape.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, he was a big dog, and mellow as could be, but you didn't want to mess with him because he'd mess up something when he did. But he was a good dog. I mean, he was probably the best coyote dog I ever owned.
Really?
So, that's why I got to meet a lot of people too. I used to have a website before Facebook basically killed all websites. I used to have Casey's Hounds and Houndsmen. I did pretty good things. I did over, like 2 million hits a month on it. It was busy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Wow.
And then Facebook came out and it was easier to, do everything, post pictures on that. And so I basically shut it down, but I also used to run the Northeastern big game trials because we never had big game trials up in the Northeast. So I started that and ran that for like 5 years, but it was, I did it all myself and trying to get prizes. I mean, I got big prizes, I got Garmin to donate, dog boxes, everything.
Oh, wow.
And gave away a lot of stuff. So, but it was just so much work and so much time. And I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And sort of miss it because, you got to meet a lot of people. I mean, we'd have 400 dogs entered in the events. We had a Bear Bay water race, field trials. And, there'd be, 400 or 500 people there. It was, a good time to get to meet a lot of people from around the country.
Right. Wow. That's really cool though. That's how long did you do that?
I did it for 6 years.
Okay.
I stopped doing it probably 4 years ago, I think. Okay.
Was that just because of a sudden lack of interest, or was it sort of pandemic related?
I didn't have the time, and workload and stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, trying to get prizes, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
The biggest companies like Garmin, it's like pulling teeth. They, and as quick as you can ask them to donate something, say $600 worth of something, they've made that 100 in a couple minutes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So, but so I just got tired of doing it and going through all the work, and like I said, I was missing work because I had to take time off and stuff. And
sure, yeah. Oh, I understand it. Yeah, no, we put on a dog sled race here for a bunch of years, and I did the sponsor stuff for it for 3 or 4 years, and I totally hear you. That's the sort of thing that sucks the life out of you real quick.
Yeah, and then when they do tell you they're going to send something, and they don't,
right?
And they tell you you're going to donate, so you put it on social media. Hey, there's a prize. They did a nice, they offered to donate this, and then they don't do it, and you're like, you just give them, a sponsorship bump, and just.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got people who were expecting that prize. I remember that happened to us with a pallet of dog food once. That the winner was going to get a pallet of dog food, which, I mean, was a good prize. And then they tried to back out on us.
Yep.
And
That's another thing. I used to give away, I like a ton of dog food, for prize, and people just wanted it so bad. But it's not the dog food you're feeding. So all you're doing is screwing up the dog's stomach for a while if you're throwing a new food in them.
right.
I would just prefer to go out and buy the dog food my dogs are accustomed to, because we all know you can't just throw a dog in different feed without messing up their gut. So, and you don't know how they're going to react to it, what they're going to do on it. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. Were you able to do some of those competitions as well? Like the competition that you put on, were you able to participate in those, or were you just too busy?
Too busy. I never brought my own dogs. So I never did it. Years ago, I used to do field trials and water races and night hunts when I was coon hunter and stuff like that. But at my own events, no, I never even brought dogs to it.
Okay.
So,
gotcha.
More for the camaraderie of other people, other hounds. As you sit there and talk. I mean, you meet people you've never known before just through social media or something, and then or meet other friends. And you start come hunting partners every once in a while, and but that was the main reason.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. It's one of those things where it's such a great thing, those kind of events putting on, the social media has been
good and bad.
It's been good and bad. Yeah. It's one of those things where you end up feeling like your contact, you're sort of connected to such a huge group of people.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just not the same.
No.
There's absolutely just something missing. It's totally different meeting somebody face to face, shaking their hands, looking at their dogs. It's something that I miss a little bit, because I think with the invention of social media, we see fewer and fewer people putting on events like you put on and participating in events like you put on, because I don't know, it seems like they're getting their fill just posting their pictures on social media.
Right. Yep. So, I mean, I post a lot of pictures on social media of my dogs, but that's about all I do.
Right.
And
I mean, I do the same thing. It's a necessary evil if you're going to be doing something like a podcast, or you've got,
right,
or you've got a kennel like you've got, and it's such. The other thing is that's like the stuff that you post is such great stuff.
Well, thank you. I enjoy the people. I like it that people enjoy it and seeing it. And it makes you feel good when, like, say, you called to do a podcast, and then Steven Fielder, he called me a couple of years before Rooster died. He's like, man, he goes, I want to do, Rooster is a legendary hound. And, I don't even know Steven, but he's been following my dog. And I said, well, he's still alive. He's like, really? And then I posted he died, and Steven was on, called me the next day. Can we do it now? I'm like, yeah, we can do it. And it makes you feel good that people, see your dogs and respect what you do. And but I personally don't like talking about my dogs, because I don't want to sound like I'm building them up.
Right. Yeah. I can understand that, but that's kind of the catch-22 of this whole thing, isn't it? It's like, if we don't talk about it, I think we'll lose it.
Yes. That's the main thing. I had this conversation with Buddy today on the way home from camp, and we were talking, and it's a way, hopefully, that'll bring in the younger generation so the sport keeps going. Because we're going to lose it. I mean, people want to shut it down. Like, they've been trying to Maine for years.
Oh, yeah.
Other states lost it, and
yep.
And it's surprising in New York, we don't have a kill season, which I love. I'm so glad we don't have a kill season, because you don't have the competition out there, where everyone's trying, and a lot of people get into it, and then they really don't know about hounds, and then they just go out and kill one bear and like, oh, I can't afford this, because hound hunting is a very expensive sport. People don't realize how expensive it is. And I mean, just for me on gas, I $200 in gas this weekend alone.
Right.
And, and plus with food and, I bought new collars again. It adds up, especially when you got 2 or 3 Garmins, it's dog boxes. And a lot of people don't understand that, and they try to get into it, and then, they get a dog, and they're like, oh, and then it ends up in a pound, because they don't want it anymore, and they can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like when I see a lot of people just breed to make money, and it irritates me. And if you go to a local shelter, there are hounds in it left and right.
Oh, yeah.
Because people buy for house pets, and, they can't control this dog. It wants to run, and then, you see them in there, and it's a waste.
It is. Yeah, it is a waste, and it's heartbreaking when you kind of see, these breeds, and it's a lot of different breeds, but we'll just sort of speaking about the hounds. You see these hounds that have been bred to do a specific thing for so many years, and then people just come out of nowhere and expect them to act in a totally different way than they're bred for, and then have the audacity to then act surprised when, old Dan won't listen to them when, went running off after deer and won't come when they call. He doesn't love me because I called him and he didn't come to me. It's like,
Yep.
it's such an insane, it's so insane to me. And it's such a shame. It's why, it's why I like the hounds. It's why I like the beagles. It's why I liked the huskies, is that, up until, and with just only a very few exceptions, up until a few generations, most dogs go back to working stock within a generation or two.
Yep. And I mean, I don't, I get calls all the time. Oh, I want to breed my, my female to your males.
Yep.
I'm like, do you hunt the dog? They're like, no. I go, no, I'm not breeding you. Sorry.
Right.
And then I'm really picky who I sell pups to. I actually, charge quite a bit for my pups, but there is a waiting list every time because I only breed when I need a pup. And the way I look at it, if someone's going to pay the higher price that I charge for a dog, then they're going to put the time in to hunt it. It's not like when someone goes down and sells a pup for $150, $200, they don't mind keeping it on a chain, and it's not putting the time into it.
Right.
If you're going to spend the extra cash, I know you're going to put the time in the dogs that you actually want it for what it's for.
Sure.
And and I'm pretty picky. I try my best to make sure everyone's got a kennel.
Yep.
For the dog. I don't like seeing a dog just hung out on a chain his whole life.
Nope.
I really, I'm really picky who I sell dogs to. And and if I can, I will find someone that knows them, and I will check and cross-reference them as much as I can, behind their back, just so I know, because I don't want a dog going to some guy that's going to beat them and stuff like that, or just.
Sure. No, I totally get that. Yeah.
I had a guy in North Carolina call me, and he wanted to get a couple pups off me, and North Carolina's sort of different ballgame than something down south. And I'm not saying anything against any of them, but a lot of times they run 30 dogs on a bear.
Yep.
And the good dogs are the ones up tight in that thick stuff, especially on the coast. And they're the ones that are getting killed because they can't back up fast enough because the other dogs are blocking them in.
Yep. The old plot blanket. Yep.
And so he had told me he had lost 13 dogs, got killed by a bear that year. He had.
Oh my gosh.
And he wanted to get killed for me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not selling you dogs just so they get killed. I just,
Cannon. Yeah.
I'm not saying they would have, but if you tell me you lost 13 dogs in 1 year to bears, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I kind of feel I totally agree with you there. It's one of those things where people will say stuff like that as if it's a testament to how gritty their dogs are. It's like, well, my dogs are so gritty, I've lost 13 this year, and it's like, that seems like more of a that says something negative about you more than how gritty your dogs are. That means that you're putting your dogs in situations that they're not. Clearly not equipped to even survive.
Right. And, I'm not going to, my dogs are my kids. They always have been. And I hate seeing anything happen to them.
Sure. Yeah.
And I like to run myself. I like to run 1-2 dogs on bear.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, when my other buddies come, sometimes I'll put 4 dogs out, but usually never more than that. But I mean, when you see this week, the only dogs I ran with Rooster, well, Anna was there today because my buddy came up for the morning, and we had Otto out, and I put my young pup out. She made it actually truck the tree was the first time, and
Oh,
she's only
cool.
6 months old.
Oh, cool.
She got up in the crotch of the tree. She was, she wasn't treeing, but she knew the bear was there. She opened on track for the first time, which I don't know if she was barking at the other dogs but she made truck the tree and she knew the bear was there. I mean, she was standing up in the crotch 5 feet up and she climbed up there and she was, so I was happy with it, but I still think she was probably just running the other dogs, but it'll come hopefully.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's those kind of experiences that build good dogs. It's the if the first time they go out there they get up in a bear's face and get their butts kicked, that's not going to be good either. It's so that's a good positive experience for it that I think will pay dividends later. I should think, yeah.
And we'll hope. I mean, she's out of coon dog line, but
Mhm.
we'll see if she makes it. She seems like she got a good nose. I mean, the other times I put her out this year with the dogs, I mean, she might get in there 1.5 miles deep and then fall out. She's only 6.5 months old, but she always finds her way back to the truck, which is a good thing.
Well done.
I can't
Yeah.
stand walking and look. She's not one of those dogs that go out there and just mill around lost, and then you have to go in and get them. She
Right.
always comes out.
Lies down and feels sorry for herself. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've just seen that way too many times.
So bad.
And, but the only thing is, she hates the truck. She absolutely hates the truck. She's just scared to death of it. And you think, trying over, sooner or later she'll learn that you get in the truck, you're going to do something fun. But I've never had a dog so petrified of the vehicle.
Really? Huh.
And the first day I picked her up, because she just I've only had her for a month or so. I put her in the back seat of the truck instead of the dog box because it was the first time ever away from her, where she was born. And best acting dog, me and my buddy Jeff went with me. Best acting dog I've ever had in a vehicle. I'm like, this is weird, just amazed. And then after that, it's just absolutely horrible.
Okay.
So, I don't know what it is. I mean, I've tried feeding her in the box or everything, giving her treats. It's just she don't.
Some dogs are like that. I had a husky. I had a husky that would vomit in its box every time we went out, and she just hated the box, and did until she was 8 or 9 years old. Just never got over it.
She doesn't vomit or anything. She just drools. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Fill a swimming pool with it. So, hopefully, like I said, hopefully she'll get over it soon. I mean, but the thing is, when she's at home, she's a whole different dog too, out in the backyard. I mean, but it's just weird.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, I've got. I told Johan Plank, who's a mutual friend of ours on Facebook. He's a big fan of your page and your dogs.
I see that.
I told him that you were coming on. He wanted me to ask you a couple questions, and one of those was about pups. And that was like, when you said you only do the breedings when you need to refill. You need your own. You need pups for yourself. And how do you then choose those pups? Do you sell them when they're real little, or do you hold on to them for a while and kind of shake them down a little bit and see what you got, or how do you do that?
Nope. 6 to 8 weeks, let them go. When people want them, they're weaned. They're usually weaned at 4 months. 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They're on crushed food with. I usually put goat milk in a replacer at first, and then I'll just after they get about 4.5 weeks, I'll just start giving them food with water and soften it, and then by 6 weeks they're just eating regular dry dog food, and but that's when I let them go. I worm them and give them their shots and everything like that. And I really don't have. Everyone's like, well, how do you always get such a good pup? I don't. Perfect example. Lobo litter.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always a waiting list for pups. Because I put them in the order, and then some guys don't like to wait. Some guys wait 5 years.
Sure.
For a pup. So I had my top 3 choices, which pup I wanted, and then I'll still him and Han, which one I want. Well, they come over, and the guy's like, "Oh no, I want that one." I'm like, all right, fine, take it. Lobo is my 4th choice, and
really?
he's just a machine. Yeah.
Wow.
And Chisholm was my 3rd choice. Because I guess, oh, please, can I have that one? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. So, I mean, then they're both outstanding bear dogs. I mean, in my eyes. I mean, they tree basically every single bear I put them on or catch it. The only time I don't tree is when I have to pull off because they're getting in areas where I'm not allowed to be. And
Right.
I won't pass. That's just something I won't do.
Sure.
Because I want to, give myself a bad rotation, and I don't want the law cracking down and saying, anything. But so it's just a crapshoot. Just take them, and hopefully you get the right one.
Yeah.
And not all pups make it out of every litter. It's just like you can have twins, humans, and one's great at sports, and the other one's a bookworm.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's a crapshoot, and you feel bad if someone does get one out of litter that doesn't make it, and
yeah,
that's
going to happen though. The best litter of huskies I ever had was a litter that I did. It's a litter I repeated, and those dogs were unbelievable. Every single pup from both of those litters ended up being absolutely phenomenal. That was after 15 years of just I don't know what mistakes I was making, because I was going out and buying the best breedings that I could possibly get my hands on from dogs that were performing at the highest level in the sport, and was just getting 1, 2 out of a litter that was worth the powder to blow them up with. And then I bred my 2 favorite dogs. I was out of the racing and just kind of wanted to have a refill of my own thing. And so bred my 2 favorite dogs and got an outstanding litter that I then repeated and got another outstanding litter. But it's such a crapshoot. I mean, it's so, if of all the litters that I've done, that one on paper was probably the worst.
Right.
But those were 2 dogs that had performed at a very high level for me for many years.
Yep. I mean, like the Lobo Chisholm cross, exact same cross. The first cross with Lobo, all the dogs are like their dad, Rooster, just absolutely laid back. You wouldn't even think they want to go hunt. I mean, they just so mellow. You never have to tie them up. You can just let them go. They won't take off and go hunting. They just lay in the yard, everything. And Chisholm's cross 2 years later, every one of those dogs are wired. Wow. Just completely high strung, never stop. I mean, they would run around the Energizer Bunny and get him tired. It's just, but it's amazing how different the 2 crosses are, but it's the exact same cross.
Right.
So, but yeah, they hunt well. So
that's excellent. That's really cool.
What else did he want to know?
The other thing he was curious about was if you see, since you run both coyote and bear, if you see any kind of difference in each individual dog's sort of desire and drive to run those things, or are they both are they psyched about both things really, or do you have, are you seeing a difference in terms of sort of grit and how long they'll stay on a track and things?
Rooster and Lobo, they prefer bear over anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Chisholm, he doesn't care what he's going to run. If he can run something, he just going to run. He just, like I said, he's just wired. And they are pretty good. I can have a bunch, because we were allowed to bait. I can have a pack of coyotes. The other day, I actually had 5 coyotes on my bait right when I was pulling up.
Oh, wow.
And there was a bear there that was 6 hours old. And I can throw a Lobo out there, and he won't touch a coyote. Even though he runs coyotes, he will not touch a coyote during bear season.
Okay.
So it's just, I get lucky with it. And, you don't find a lot of them doing the same. His father, Rooster, the same thing. You could throw him in a pack of coyotes, and he would not chase one. Now, if it came, for some reason they know when you're out running coyotes, they just run it. They love it, but they just know it's bear season. How they do, I don't know. But it's just a different kind of thing, and I get lucky with it.
Sure. Wow, that's cool. That's cool. Have you, in your breeding program, I mean, you focus on intelligence, you focus on drive and things like that. Are you focusing on anything? Like, what are you focusing on physically? You talked a little bit about your dogs being fairly, people call them pit bulls. They're kind of like pretty solid. But it requires a real athletic dog to run coyotes. I mean, they need to be athletes to run bears, but I mean, coyotes is a different deal.
Yeah, because you're usually going to treat that bear most of the time.
Right.
Don't get wrong. I like running smaller bears if possible when the dogs are in shape, because you might get a 10, 15 mile race with a small bear.
Right.
Which I enjoy. The longer the race for me, the better. Good feet. I mean, dogs got to have tough feet, especially running coyotes and they have frozen ground. You got to have the stamina, the lung capacity, and it takes years to get what I wanted. I mean, building this more speed, better nose for the drive. I mean, I like my dogs are off a track, like running coyotes. If you're on a snow, sometimes you'll see the dogs, they'll be 30 yards off the coyote track and just parallel drifting the scent with their nose, head up, running full speed, and they're not on the track, and a lot of guys will miss the coyote, go by because the coyote will be ahead of the dogs. And
Sure.
They're like, well, the dogs came by and there's no coyote. I go look for the tracks. And they're like, well, there's dog tracks, no coyote track. I go, keep going farther down. And they're like, oh yeah, he was over here, he was 20 yards away.
Right.
So, it's just, that's what I breed. I just over the years been trying to get the nose, drive, the speed, the stamina. The stamina comes too. I mean, you got to have the right build for it. Some of these dogs just aren't built for those long runs.
Right.
And smaller hound going to be last longer than a big hound. I mean, right. They're not taking such beating on their bones and joints.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It's interesting. I'm a little bit torn between the big dogs and the little dogs, or the smaller dogs. I absolutely see, in the dog mushing world that those little dogs, they take less of a beating. They certainly do. But on the flip side, you've got these less power, but also just the ability of those big dogs to cover an enormous amount of ground very quickly.
Right.
So I think that
that's completely different though from a hound.
Absolutely.
Once again, it's a hound's nose. A hound can only run as fast as his nose can take him. And
that's the truth.
Now I have a pup that I sold to a guy in Wisconsin. He was waiting for a few years. I got one. Pup was about 6 months old. He's got a bunch of long-legged walkers. And he's like, man, he goes, I'm pretty disappointed in this pup. I'm like, well, why is that? You haven't even really done anything with her yet. He goes, she's tiny. She goes, she's never going to be able to keep up with my long-legged walkers. And I said, I've been hearing this for years and years and years. I said, just give her a shout, a chance.
Yep.
So later, she was about 10, 11 months old, and he sent me a picture on Messenger of his Garmin, and dog had 23, 0.74 miles or something drastic on it. And the speed, dog was still running at 12 and a half miles an hour. And I sent him a message back. I said, oh, that walker's flying. He goes, no, it's that little red dog. She's smoking my walkers. But,
wow.
And I have buddies that run all running walkers, and I do coyote hunt with them. And if the conditions are perfect, they don't have the nose, but if the conditions are absolutely perfect, those dogs can flat out leave my dogs. But 95% of the time, conditions aren't perfect, and my dogs are usually right with his or in the lead.
Right.
Because of the nose.
Right. And I mean, it's the case with my running walker. It requires a very special dog to run a roe deer. They're these little deer species we've got over here, a little bit smaller than they're about the size of a blacktail or a coos, like a what do you call them? The Sitka blacktails.
Right.
And, but they're super long legged. They look like, they run and they look like pronghorns. I mean, they just go forever, and they're so fast. It takes a very, very special dog to run one of those. And she's not even allowed to do it, but if she runs trash, she's the only dog I've ever seen that has managed to run one of those down.
That's impressive.
Real impressive, but I'm pretty sure she was sight chasing it pretty much the entire time.
Right.
Because her nose is is not that good. It's not good enough to run a deer down that fast,
So
So
she's definitely right up on top of it.
Right. So again, and part of that is, I think part of the nose thing for her is that she is such an athletically built dog, and she is so fast that she gets impatient because she knows she's capable of running much faster than her nose is allowing her to. So she'll overrun a track, and after that happens a few times, she'll just kind of boil over and go off and do her own thing.
Right.
Which drives me insane. It's a terrible quality that I would have worked off of her as a pup if I'd had her when she was a pup. But the plot was, and my other I've got a grade walker that I got early on, and both of those were bigger, stockier, heavier, kind of pumpkin-headed dogs, which is the type of dog I like.
Me too.
And they moved just a little bit slower, and it just seemed to come easier to them to use their nose. They weren't in as much of a hurry as she was.
Right.
But you let them all out in the yard to tear around, and she just runs circles around those guys. Like, they have no chance of catching her. But ultimately, we're going to get to game faster with the slow and steady approach than her approach, which often leads to nothing at all.
Right. So, that's like with Chisholm and Lobo. I mean, they basically run side by side.
Right.
And so with the rest of our whole pack. I mean, they're all related dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And Chisholm has got this last gear in him. And you'll see it a bunch. Like, we're running, we got a good race going. Say it's just, we're 4 to 7, 8 mile race on a young bear, a small bear.
Yep.
Just before tree, you'll see Chisholm. He's up on the bear and he can see it. And then you'll see him instantly put 400 or 500 yards on the other dogs.
Oh, wow.
And boom, come treed. And the other dogs are right behind him, they're coming, because dogs can cover 400 or 500 yards pretty quick. But he's got that extra gear at the very end where when he thinks he got it, he throws it in and it just boom. And we all sit there like Jeff will call me on the radio in the truck and go, "Do you see what Chisholm's doing again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I see what Chisholm's doing."
Yeah.
That dog is completely wired. But yeah, it's just everything's different with all hounds. It's just never know.
Yeah, and you've got to find what works for you. And it really sounds like you found the dog that where the what do you call it? Your ability to work together, you and those hounds, is just spot on. I mean, it sounds like you found your thing.
I mean, that bear yesterday we treated, that little bear.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't too long around. It was like, I think, just only 3.5 miles, something like that. Through a bunch of beaver, because where I run, it's just beaver flow after beaver flow after beaver flow. It's just brutal, and it took us 2 hours to get into the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Because the time I got around to where I go, it still had to walk 1.5 miles into them, and you could tell when you got there that they were on that bear, and that bear had no choice but going, because the tree he was in was a tiny little tree, and there were big trees all around him. So he had to go up.
That was a panic decision.
Yeah, it was a panic decision. So, I mean, I have a nice area to run to. I'm a part of a hunt club, and no one ever uses the club. No one ever uses it, and it's 13,000 acres, private, all gated, and roaded up everywhere, and so it makes me nice. I got no other people around me, no competition.
That sounds unbelievable. I was going to ask you about that, because I've talked to a bunch of guys recently where they're saying that it's getting harder and harder to get out, because they're ending up having to pull their dogs. 9 times out of 10, they'll have to pull their dogs before a race is over, just because they're running off of the property that they've got permission to run.
Yep. I mean, we have one area just outside of the club, and the bear, he's already beat us 4 times this year. He knows where to go. He knows the dog's going to get pulled. And I hate pulling dogs, but it's, my dogs are trained well enough where they can be looking at the bear And all I do is hit the tone button, and they just come to the truck.
That's great. That's great.
I
Yeah.
don't like doing it, because they give you that look. And they're like, really? Really? And you're like, yeah, sorry, guys, but you got to get in the truck.
Yeah.
So
it's such a bummer to have to do it, but it's at the same time, I was talking to Doug McMahon about that once. It's such a nice thing to have a handle on your hounds. I think it's one of the mistakes that I see most of the first time, both, regardless of the working dog that they're using, the Huskies or the Hounds or whatever, these first time owners or these first time, houndsmen, that first generation of dogs will just be impossible to get off of trees.
Yep.
And then then they learn and they start training for it, and life just gets so much easier.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people, most people do know how to use a shock collar the right way, and some don't.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, basically, over here in the United States, first thing your dogs are going to run are deer.
Mm-hmm.
And if my dog's 6 months old and wants to pound a deer, I'm going to let it. You can run it. You're running a track fine,
Yep.
And deer's a tough animal to run.
Mm-hmm.
They cover a lot of ground and big leaps, bounds, rip up. And a lot of guys, the first thing their dogs are going to chase is a deer. And what they do is they light them up.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog's like, what? Yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just get shocked for it.
Right. They're like, oh, so I'm not supposed to be chasing anything. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
They take the wrong message from it. Yeah.
Yep. So, you're not really supposed to let them run deer, but if it's a pup, I'll let them run for a little while. Then I'll catch them off or whatever. But
sure.
I like my dog to be able to run the track. A lot of guys I know, they'll start their dogs on rabbits.
Yep. I've talked to a bunch of guys that do that. Yep.
But there's also a bunch of guys that try to run coon and bear with the same dogs. And that's basically an impossible feat, because you go to your bear bait and there's going to be coons all over.
Right.
And then your dogs go out in tree, and I see it nonstop. And, the dogs go in 500 yards in tree, and what's in that tree. It's a coon.
Right.
So Kyle's a different story. You got to have a dog that's actually smart enough to know, like mine are, luckily, that it's bear season. But we go to Maine because we hunt down east Maine. Down east Maine is very, very thick.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I hunt, and it's brutal. And a lot of beaver flows there too, and a lot of water.
Yep.
And guys will come up, and that's a different thing. Like guys from down south will come up, and they're used to running the big mountains, and they get up, and dogs get in here, and they don't have the water, they never experienced water, and they get in all this water. They don't know what to do.
Right. And
a lot of guys, same thing with the coons. They get in Maine, and Maine's got some big coons. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh, we've we've got some monsters there. Yeah, I was born and raised in Maine, and we had a dumpster that we had to put rocks on the top, which is not an uncommon thing. People have to put rocks on top of the dumpsters to keep the raccoons out. But in the end, we had to put like a 50 or 60 pound rock on the top of this trash container to keep the coons out of it. Like we had bungee corded it down, we tried everything, and these just monster bear cub sized coons would come out and just take the bungee cords off.
Perfect example, years ago, it's probably 5 years ago, up in Maine, and we went to this bait twice, and we had like a lodgepole in there, we size, 8 inches around, 20 feet long, stuck in the hole of the barrel. And we get there, and Bill's like, oh, bear was here, he took the logs out. Lobo couldn't take a track out of there like 2 days in a row. And I'm like, Bill, I'm putting a video camera on this, because I always have cell phone cameras if I get service, and I always have a backup camera with video, because you get some good videos and stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah. We
get there, and there are 2 coon, and they're like weightlifters. They're under that lodgepole, and they, with their shoulders, they pulled that thing out. We're like, you got to be kidding me. I had a hard enough time picking up and sticking in there. And 2 coons took that thing out, and I would have never believed it in my life. And I'm like, this is just amazing. I go, Bill, this is why you have to have cameras on your baits.
Absolutely.
Because you got bears pulling your big logs out, and the coons are doing it. He's like, holy shit, you're right. I would have never in my wildest dreams thought coons could pull that out, ever.
That's amazing. They're,
Yep.
I mean, they're deceptively strong. They really are. I mean, I've seen, I've seen coons get hit by cars and just like right back up on their feet, running along.
Yeah.
Like they're remarkably, anybody who hunts them can, will attest to this certainly, but they're, for people who don't hunt them, like I've never hunted raccoon. I was surprised at how tough they were. They're strong, solid, angry little animals.
Yep. A lot of people that go up to Maine too. The dogs have never had a moose encounter.
Sure.
And they get a lot of moose chases up there, poor bastards.
Yeah.
But I mean, like a couple years ago, Rooster was still alive, and we pulled into a bait and coming down a little laneway. There comes a nice bull moose just walking at us, and guy's like, "Well, we gotta go someplace else." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Well, there's a moose there. Can't put the dogs out." Yeah, we can. And sent moose cut in, sent Rooster down the roadway. All of a sudden, boom, struck, and we got a bear treat. I mean, Rooster, he would never take anything like that. But I've seen people come up there, boy, and a moose race can be a pretty good race.
Oh, it can be a great race. I mean, but moose can travel. They can cover a lot of ground real fast.
Yes, and I mean, it's a race sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Especially you get on one of those young bulls. But thank God I never have that problem. That's knock on wood.
Yeah, that's a good quality, in the hounds. It's not to have that problem, because it's a bummer. That plot that I had, that was always in the back of my mind every time I dropped him, was because after, when he got kicked, that was only at 5 months old, 4.5, 5 months old. And, that was real unfortunate deal where I didn't expect it to happen. I didn't expect him to find it. We were right back at the car. So I had just taken his leash off to like toss him into the car, and, took off, bait up this moose, got kicked in the face. It was still snow on the ground. So I followed him out there, could see where he'd sort of been circling around. I could see where he'd been hit because there was a bunch of blood all over the place, and followed the blood trail to the pup, who was now, like a shark in bloody water. His pupils were all dilated, and he was, had this moose backed up in some bushes. But that became a real problem because he, a hound's going to take that one of two ways. They're either going to decide that this is scary and I don't want to have any part of this, or it seems, especially the plots, have a tendency to
piss them off and want it more.
Exactly. It's like, well, this is the thing. I'm going to dedicate my life to getting revenge on this thing that wronged me when I was a pup.
Yep.
And it seems, unfortunately, like Dan has taken the latter approach, because they put him on a lynx not long after he went down there, and they were just having the best run on a lynx, and suddenly the tone changed. He went from that nice, walking bay kind of a deal to just this insane yowling coming down off of a mountain, and moose went flying by and Dan went flying by 10 yards later,
Yep. I mean, that was like years ago. We were in Maine too, and running. We got on a walking bear in this thickest spot. We were on it for 13 hours, and
oh
you could
my
never
gosh,
go up and just walk. And every time you go in a bay, breaking, it's so thick you can't see or do anything.
Sure.
Well, at one point, my buddies, he had a running walker and a pound bear. But it went in tree, couldn't tree worth a shit. When a tree, less than see the bear moving, then it goes psycho. Like you think you were shocking the dog.
Right.
The noise would make. When we watched, after a couple hours, we see her go by, run into the woods, and Red goes, I think my dog's face was full of quills, because it fell out of race for like half an hour and then got back into it. Sure enough, the thing stopped, got into porcupine, and still went back in the bear race.
got back on it.
Yep. So you were right, because we picked them up. It was actually dark and the collars were going dead. And they had a bait up on the side of the road. And we rushed in there and just grabbed dogs. And it was dark, and Rooster's collar was dead completely. I just got lucky. It would have been an all-night thing.
Oh, wow. That kind of stuff is scary. I'm glad the battery capacity has gotten better on those things.
Yeah, I just got the new one. It's supposed to go from like 60 to 80 hours to 15x.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one of the I guess it's a newer one of the T5s.
Okay. Yep.
And I've got the Alpha 100, I guess is what it's called. And I was able to turn the refresh rate way, way down and had one of those collars last for 38 hours in the middle of winter. Good. And I was happy with that. That fits my needs pretty well. I don't need anything that's going to last much longer than that, at least not in the middle of winter.
Right. So we were talking earlier that House in the Woods.
Yep.
It's a retreat for veterans,
mm-hmm.
wounded warriors. And Paul House, he lost his son in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So he started this up, and they're always looking for donations, stuff like that. But they take people out for everything: fishing trips, hunting trips. Some bear hunters sit on baits. They take moose hunters, and they try to get tags donated. And then we always take 1 or 2 every year for the week I'm up there with a hound hunt, and to see how much excitement they get out of it, because they've never actually done the hound hunt, and then they find out what it's like, and like, this is great. It gives you a lot of pleasure just to see what you can do for them.
That's such a great.
They deserve it more than anyone.
Oh gosh, isn't that the truth? Yeah, that's such a great program. It's House in the Woods?
Yes, House in the Woods.
Do they have a website? I'll toss that into the episode notes for people who want to go and check it out.
Yes, they do. Big retreat. Like I said, he does an outstanding job. He's got a little like wired-haired dachshund that he uses for blood trailing. That dog's amazing. That dog finds.
That's cool.
His Turbo. They even got a coffee line out. Turbo Coffee.
That's awesome.
And this dog, he just rides around, but he'll let you know when put him on a day-old track, and he'll let you know when he gets up to that. Say if it's a bear, if it's alive or dead, by his tone of his bark, and so you know what you're getting into and stuff.
Sure.
But no, he tracks moose, because all blood trailing dogs, they trail by blood. People think they trail by scent, but they don't. They trail by the blood.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And he's a good dog. But that's what Paul does for all the veterans, and I mean hundreds and hundreds of them, is just an amazing thing. And I'm glad I can do my part.
Oh, kudos to you for doing it. That's, I think that, running dogs in general, it's such an individualistic sport. We spend so much time alone. We spend so much time focused on our dogs and our gear and our systems and our hunts and things like that it's real easy to kind of get a little bit egotistical. And I catch myself in that as well. It's so cool to hear, people like yourself getting out there and giving back to, as you said, the people who, realistically deserve it most, deserve to get a little bit back for the sacrifices that they themselves have.
What I do want to say that, because I go up and I run with Bill Deserisky from Hollerback Guy Service.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go up there to kill bears because I don't care to kill bears. None of my group does. I mean, we've killed a few. I've killed one my whole life. And my other partner, Jeff, that goes up with us, he killed one, but that was a big bear. We treat that one. That was 538 pounds.
Wow.
It was a beast.
Wow. Yeah, that's a solid animal.
So we go up there, and we just go up to Bill's to have fun. We're not up there. We're just up there to chase bears. And so we got into, through Bill and Paul, the wounded warriors, taking the veteran.
Yep.
So Bill, Bill's a big part of it. We go up there to, his dogs are out of my kennel too. He used to have blue dogs, and now he's got red dogs. But he's the one that set it all up for us with Paul, and so
cool.
Big shout out to him.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
He's on Facebook too. I mean, so
gotcha. Good. And does he have a kennel page as well?
He's got it on Facebook. It's Hollerback Guys. It's HOLLABACK.
Hollaback Guide Service. Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to put some links to these guys in the episode notes, so people can go and check these guys out and give some support to guys that are doing some work for a very worthy cause.
Now, do you do this off of DU site?
I do. Yep. So
Okay.
this is the podcast goes off of the W feed. So
Okay.
the W has four different podcasts that all go on the same feed and just have different days that they launch.
Okay.
So Steve Fielder's podcast is on here. That launches on Mondays. Mine launches on Wednesdays. And then the W podcast with Jason and Buddy, that will launch on Fridays. And mine alternates with Brett Vaughn's podcast, the Born 100 Years Too Late.
Okay. I can just go on the DU site and get onto it.
Yeah, you can, or you can. I mean, you can look it up if you've got an iPhone. You can look it up in iTunes. It's right there, and or Spotify or Google Music, kind of whatever you would use to listen to
I have an
music.
Android, so yeah.
Yep. So
yeah, because Buddy actually years ago tried buying my website off. He wanted to buy my website.
Oh yeah.
No. But then he goes, well, all right. Well, then because I did sell house supplies for a while, but I just couldn't stand going to post office every day.
Mhm.
Besides work. So he came out and he advertised for a year on my website, and he used to donate to the big game trials every year.
Yep.
So
yeah, Buddy's done a lot for a lot of years. He's done a lot for the sport, and he's done a lot of put a lot back into the sport in the Hound world, and which is
he's made some big donations to the Maine, to try to keep the Hound rates and fight the antis.
Yep, he has. He has, and I think that's something everybody. Most of the time, people talk to, when on my podcast and things, we usually get Jason out, and Jason's an awesome dude. And I think that it's important to remember that Buddy and Jason do a lot for the Hound community, and Buddy's been doing that for a very long time, and he's not the kind of guy that's going to beat his own drum. He's not the kind of guy that's going to be like, hey, I did this, hey, I donated, what you should too. He won't even do that. So I think people kind of need to understand just how much money Buddy has put into not just the community in terms of prizes, advertising, that kind of thing, but also just in terms of, financial support for groups that are fighting to preserve hound hunting in their states.
Right.
And, yeah, so he's done a lot that I'm not sure people are fully aware of how much Buddy's done for the Hound world.
Yep.
So,
like I said, because back in the day when I had my website, like the top 3 sites were Buddy's, coondogs.com, and my site.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
We're, and then everyone keeps asking me to bring your website back.
Yep.
Because people are tired of Facebook and all the politics.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. No, I mean,
I don't really care to do it. Trying to watch everything and the hackers getting in there.
Yep. No, it's a pain. I spend, it's not a lot of time, but it's 10, 15 minutes every day, kind of going through the podcast Facebook site and making sure that not a lot of crap has gotten in there, because there's so many scammers out there. It's unbelievable.
Yep. See, one thing I get lucky with, because my hunt partner, he actually built my website for me. He's, a web technician or whatever. He's just a whiz, he knows everything, so I just hear Jeff, and he's basically, he got to the point too, he's like, I'm tired of doing this shit every day.
Right.
So, but it was, he did a lot of, he's a good friend to have if you're doing web stuff.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Nothing you can't do and, undo. And actually, he's lucky he didn't get arrested in 1 year. Garmin put out an update and it was wrong. Jeff went into their site, changed it, and told Garmin, here, I fixed your thing. And they said, we appreciate that, but don't ever hack our site again. So I said,
Gosh.
Jeff, that was something you probably shouldn't have done. You could have gotten real trouble. He goes, well, I fixed it for him. He goes, I was sick of that crap.
Oh,
So,
that's a great story. That's a great story. Wow.
well, I got people. My phone is nonstop. I got one guy just sent me a text. He wants to breed his female. All right. So, which is a good thing. He's a Red Bull guy, obviously.
Yep.
So,
Do you breed to? I know it's kind of a lot of people are kind of bringing in. At least a lot of people here that I've talked to recently of. They're bringing in other breeds to kind of I don't know, bolster the genetics. They say to sort of get that hybrid vigor in their own lines. Is that ever anything that you guys do? I mean, the genetics. There's got to be enough of a breadth of genetics in the red bones where that wouldn't be strictly necessary, I should think.
no, I'm not too sure. Like I said, I just got to make sure the dog hunts. I mean, I got to see its traits. I'm not just going to breed to any dog. The guy that just called me, I know him. He lives up on my camp. I've hunted with him plenty of times. He's actually bred to Lowell before.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to know the dog. I mean, I'm not going to just take someone's word for it. I want to see the dog hunt. I want to, or at least know the person and have other references from it, not from just the guy that owns it.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And then, because I'm not going to just throw my line out there for anything.
That makes sense.
I'm very picky who I breed to, and
yep,
and stuff like that. So
no, that makes sense.
I don't want someone, saying, "Oh, I bred that dog and pups turned out like shit," and and then give it, because it does happen. I mean, it doesn't to me usually. Thank God, knock on wood again. I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything like that.
No, but
because, I do my homework and. So.
Yep. I mean, it's worth considering. It's something that I got, I burnt myself on early on in the dog mushing world. I bought some very good dogs to build up my own kennel and people, a couple of bigger names bred to those dogs and kind of were in love with their own thing anyway. So I don't know that they even bred their best females to those dogs. But then when those litters didn't work out amongst the 10 other litters that they'd done, it was my fault.
Yeah.
And that's something I got real cagey about later. It's like people would call and ask, hey, I want to breed to, Adok or Ethan, one of my studs or Seppo or whatever. And it'd be like, no, I'm good. I don't need pups right now. And they're like, well, I need pups. And I'm like, well, that's not my problem, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah, and people get a kick out of, I don't know if you've noticed, my dog's names. Do you know what they are? Well, it's Rio Lobo.
Yeah.
It's John Chisholm.
Yep.
Their father was Rooster Cogburn.
Sure.
Their other grandfather was Big Jake. They're all John Wayne characters.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm a big John Wayne fan. I name all my male dogs after either John Wayne movie or something like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow, I didn't. I hadn't made the connection, but that of course makes sense.
Yep. So yeah, I also had the Duke. It's a lot of people catch it, some people don't. So
that's too funny. That's too funny. I usually do the last couple litters were country music artists, but like legit country music artists in my mind.
Yeah,
anyway,
country music artists like Merle or Waylon.
Exactly. I had Waylon, Willie, Emmylou, Dolly. Who else did I have? I've still got a couple of them down there. Arlo.
All right.
Yep. So,
because my other buddy's dog is Waylon.
Yep, that's a great name. It's a good name for a dog.
Yep.
So, well, you've got one bear up in a tree already today. You got a podcast under your belt. What's the plan for the rest of the day? You gonna head back up there and get another one?
No, I gotta go back to work tomorrow. I only get to run on the weekends now.
Gotcha.
I took the first 2 weeks off.
Gotcha.
So
What
I'm
do you
trying to
do?
get back.
What do you do for work?
Environmental remediation,
Okay.
contaminated spills, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
blowing gas tanks. I was a carpenter, construction person my whole life, and I
Mhm.
just got out after 30 years building houses and stuff like that. And so now I had to come home on Sundays from camp, drive up every Friday after work, and then come home on Sundays after I'm done running.
Right.
But today I'm going to do pretty much nothing. I'm going to actually have to do laundry, which is really exciting. And try to stay cool because it's hot. It's 90 degrees. So it's been like this for the last 3 weeks, and it's tough on the dogs too. So gotta
That
make sure
is
they got
tough on
plenty
the
of water.
dogs. That is
They
tough on
haven't
the
even
dogs.
worked.
Yeah. How do
It was
you?
a short run today, and then they were exhausted.
Right. Yeah. I just did an article for Bear Hunting Magazine about that. And how are you keeping your dogs, both cool during the day, but how are you keeping them sort of healthy and alive while you're out there? Because a lot of people will, experience that heat stroke, especially in.
Well, I firm believer of during the summer and running conditions, and even in the winter, because people have got to understand, dog needs just as much water, if not more, in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm running them or it's a real hot day, all their food gets soaked with water.
Yep.
Just for the extra, because some dogs just don't drink enough. They don't. And so you put it in with their food, and so then I'll soak it, on running. But on other days, like if we're home this week and not running, I won't really, unless it's super hot out, I won't put water in the food, because and I give them a biscuit every day too, try to keep their teeth clean. And obviously keep them up to date on all their shots and stuff like that.
Yep.
But just do what you can. I mean, they work hard for you. You got to work hard to keep them healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and the hydration thing is I think where a lot of people run into problems, honestly, is most of the dogs that I've seen that have stroked out, due to the heat, asking some follow-up questions, found that they've been, maybe have not gotten the amount of fluids that they should have leading up to a fairly intense, spurt of activity.
Right. And another good thing is too, I mean, a lot of times, dogs exhaust from running in the heat. Like today, I mean, the dogs were exhausted. It was a short run too. It was just so hot and humid this morning.
Yep.
And then people bring them back and throw them in the dog box.
Yep.
And see, at least I have a water tank built right into my dog box,
mm-hmm.
which makes it nice. So when I keep bowls in it, there's a toolbox built right in. So, first thing I get back to the truck, I don't load the dogs up. They can just hang in the truck, and I just open the water tank up, fill bowls of water, so they get rehydrated, and But I've seen dogs just have heat stroke from being in the box.
Yep, me too.
And so, and that's why I like the rig box. I get a lot of air going through it, and like I said, I always make sure and I do not feed my dogs ever before a run.
Yep,
I've seen way too many dogs turn their stomachs.
Yep.
So, but a lot of people won't. They feed them in the morning, and they're like, "Oh shit, my dog turned his stomach." Well, probably shouldn't have fed him. But,
yep. Yeah, I mean, I never fed closer than 2.5 hours to when I was going to go out and do something. And that was never, even then, it was never ever a full meal.
Right.
It might be some baited water kind of a deal, some water with a little bit of kibble in it just to get them, if nothing else, they'll get a little bit more water as they're sort of bobbing for apples, trying to get those little bits of kibble out of the bottom.
Yep. I mean, I give my dogs a biscuit usually every morning, that's about it.
Yep. Yep. Now that'll keep them.
They expect it. First thing in the morning, they're like, "Oh, where's my biscuit?"
Right.
Well, like I said, help keep their teeth cleaner.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that's another important thing that I think a lot of people kind of drop the ball a little bit on is, their teeth. That's so much bacteria in their mouths when their teeth start to rot that it's real hard on their kidneys.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even the guy that builds my dog boxes, Dylan Schneider there, and the custom dog box, they just went down and run with a buddy of mine in North Carolina, and his partner, and he's got air and fans and everything in the box, had heat stroke in the box. And I mean, his box is real nice. Like I said, it's got air, everything in it, and solar powered.
Right. Wow.
And it just happened. So you gotta
Yeah.
be careful.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Well, Matt, we've been going for about an hour and
45 minutes.
45 minutes here. I really appreciate you coming on. I really do. It's been I've been looking forward to talking to you for a good while, and I'm really psyched that you agreed to come on and talk about your dogs. I love talking about breeds, especially breeds that I'm not as familiar with myself, because to my knowledge, and this is the truth, I do not believe that there is a single red bone in Norway.
Really? I get a lot of calls to ship dogs overseas, but the thing is, I just don't have the dogs. I'm not a breeder.
Right.
I don't have, when I do have people around here want them, and then going to the, so I get them all the time, like Greece, especially Greece. Greece wants them left and right for boars.
Yep.
But what if your red bone's over that way? I know that.
Yeah, I mean, in other parts of Europe, there are a bunch of them. But in Norway, I do not believe. I was looking it up, trying to find one, and I could not find one. So any of my Norwegian listeners that know of one, drop me a line, because I'd be interested in.
Well, I appreciate you contacting me. I mean, it sort of means feels good knowing that people follow your dogs and and stuff like that.
Oh sure, yeah, it's one of those funny things, though, isn't it? With social media, like I said, it gives you this sort of sense of community, even if you've never talked to that person. So I was excited to talk to you about Lobo and Chisholm and Otto and Rooster, and dogs that I'd was aware of, even though we've never spoken before. It's social media is fun that way.
When Stephen wanted to do the article on Rooster for Legendary Hound, it makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
Like it, and like I said, I really don't like talking about my dogs. I just let people look at pictures, and then they can make their own decision.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you making an exception and coming and talking to me. It was really interesting to talk to you, and it's always fun talking to somebody who really knows what they're doing and has a deep passion and enthusiasm for it, which you, clearly have in spades.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it. And it was a pleasure talking to you. And enjoy Norway. If we ever get back over to the States during bear season, give us a shout.
I'll definitely do that. And if you ever feel like taking a European vacation hunting some brown bears, I might know a guy.
Okay. You never know.
You never know. All right, Matt, I appreciate it.
All right, you take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Man, I love that sound.